After enjoying sunshine, sandy beaches, and 2 wins that gave him the win in the Mayan Challenge over in Cancun, the Georgia State men's basketball team came over back to a rather wet sports arena here in Atlanta, Georgia, and they got the win against Wright State as they beat them 81-74. I'm Nathan there, joined by my colleague Caleb Johnson. Caleb, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. It's good to see you win.
Yeah.
A little concerning, I guess, to start off the game, but Georgia State comes and pulls it out.
Yeah, overall, I think as a journalist and a fan, it was a rather fun game to watch in the beginning because it was going back and forth. It was a tight game. Defense wasn't really locking down on both sides because at most it was a 2-point or 1-point lead for both teams. And I think later on in late first half, we found a way to pull away a little bit. So it was overall a good game. You want to let's jump right into this, man.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we have to give Wright State their credit. So starting out, beginning of the game, they were able to build a little bit of a lead, and so like you said, as a journalist and a fan, kind of concerning, especially when you're like, okay, it's Wright State, still a D1 school, but not someone you would think could be able to keep up.
Also coming in, they were 6-1, so there's that, right?
Yes, yeah. Now you have to talk about 5-game winning streak they have coming into this game. So, Coach Hunter did say at the press conference that he knew they were going to shoot the ball well. I don't know if he was prepared for this kind of production from their shooters, and it wasn't necessarily who they thought was going to shoot the ball.
That is true. That is true. It really came from a source that I don't think Georgia State had a game plan for, and that came in the second half, right?
Yes. So with Benzinger, I mean, he showed out second half. We look at first half, I think he's got like 6 points or something like that.
Which was expected, right?
Yeah. Okay, so, he's produced a little bit, and so things are moving along, but nothing to be concerned about. They were keeping Allstork. They were keeping his points down. The team was scoring early on, and then it was good to see what Georgia State did at the end of the first half, increasing that lead. And then Jeremy Hollowell, right there at the buzzer, nailing the three, putting them up 8. Coach said was huge for them to go into the second half.
Yeah, when you bring that up, before even Hollowell got going with that shot at the buzzer, Isaiah Williams came in off the bench. Became that spark. I think he hit 2 straight threes in back-to-back possessions, which gave Georgia State a comfortable lead. Because before that, it was like we said earlier, a 2-point or 1-point lead for Georgia State, and it'll go right back to Wright State. But once Isaiah came in and started hitting those back-to-back threes on those back-to-back possessions, it increased the lead to like 6.
Yes.
So that with that. And that was close to, there was like 2 or 1 minute left in the first half. And then Jeremy hits that 3 at the buzzer. Momentum is good. And we saw that when they came out in the second half, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they came out in the second half. They put their foot on the gas pedal, and they never looked back, even though if fans may have felt quite a bit of concern close to the end of the second half. Yeah. I mean, with Benzinger, I heard somebody around me, and of course this is such an easy analogy to use these days. When someone shoots well, they're Steph Curry. But for real, I mean, this guy, Coach said he was shooting from Buckhead.
Yeah, right. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, Benzinger was coming out there. He was putting up a good-looking shot, and it was falling in the second half.
Yeah.
I have to talk about. He scored 24 points in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't. You don't see that a lot, and you don't want to see that, especially when it's the opponent playing Georgia State.
Coach did say those threes that he was taking, they were all contested. Great defense was played. He was just feeling it, and he was just letting it go, and it was falling. And he ended up with 32 points in 29 minutes for this team. Luckily, we were able to hold on towards the end. But let's just backtrack a little bit.
Okay. All right.
So there's one guy. So going into the season, we talked about a couple players, but there was 2 that stood out. There was Jeremy Hollowell, being a senior, and we talked about Willie Clayton, being the center, being the big man on this team.
Yes.
Before our show started, we talked about their first game against Thomas. He had a double-double.
Yes.
Right. Since then, he hasn't looked so good, has he?
No, he's. I don't want to say we should be concerned yet.
Okay. Do you think it's too early on?
I do, because, I mean, we're still, we've played 6 games.
Yeah, 6 games, yeah.
Okay. And so in the 2 games that were played in Cancun, second half, he really wasn't needed, I guess is the word, because he was available.
Right.
Against Auburn and Purdue, we're running into foul trouble with Willie. And talking to people around the team, they kind of say, well, Purdue and Auburn, they were getting the home team calls.
Well, yeah, it's up for discussion.
And
we'll never know.
Yeah, so Willie in those games taken out early. In the games in Cancun, not really running into foul trouble, just not producing, and so Coach wasn't playing him.
Well, you bring up the point that he wasn't needed, but I want to disagree with that in the Purdue game, because Purdue went on, a 15-0 run to finish off the game. I would have thought if I don't know if he was in foul trouble that game.
He definitely was. Yeah, he fouled out.
Okay, that explains as to why Coach never put him back in. Because I feel like if he was still in the game, Purdue wouldn't have went on that 15-0 run.
Well, yeah, that was the big men fouling out with Sessions and with Hollowell was the reason why that Purdue game just got away right there at the end. But as far as when they went to Cancun, was when they're playing schools who, and something I just want to veer off 285 a little bit just for a quick second to talk about something I think Coach needs to be concerned about is starting in Cancun. These 3 games, the opposing team has started early, has started strong early.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's a good point.
I think in Cancun, you had both of those teams put around 10 points, had a 10-point lead on Georgia State. Here, Wright State has a 6-point lead on Georgia State, which, that was the highest point lead that they had in the game. But I think it's a cause for concern. Because next game, Mississippi State in Starkville. So you don't want to let Mississippi State get out to a big lead and let things get out of hand.
Yeah, throughout the season, you're right. That's a good point. Georgia State has been playing catch-up. If it's halfway through the first quarter or going into the half, they've always been playing catch-up. And even when we get into conference play, that is not going to help this team, even though they look pretty good right now.
Yeah,
it's not going to help.
And so one of the things that Coach talked about was he said he knew he knew Wright State was going to shoot the ball well.
That's
okay, that's great. You can only game plan so much when defensive screens and things of that nature kind of break down and guys are open to shoot the 3. But another cause for concern is Georgia State in the second half had a 24-point lead.
They did.
24-point lead diminished rather quickly.
It did, yeah. I think down, there was 3 minutes left. Wright State found a way to cut it to 10.
Yes.
Cut it to 7, 5, and we're over here sweating. It got a little too close for comfort, knowing that we had that 24-point lead. Because when you looked up at the scoreboard, it was like, wow, we're up by this much. We should just skate on through and get this win. And our fans were already doing the chant of who's the loser and who's the winner. And then there's Benzinger on cue hitting a 3, leaving it close to 4 points.
Yes.
And to let Wright State just erase that 24-point lead and let them come back like that, I'm rather surprised we hung on because we did hit our free throws down the stretch.
Yes.
Which kind of sealed this win. Right?
And that was one of the things is Coach talked in that press conference. He said, his big men have to be able to shoot their free throws, which early on we didn't see from Willie, but he did finish out of the 4 that he shot.
He finished.
He finished the last 3.
Yeah, they did.
And so that was a good sign to see from him. But I guess a cause for concern is that Jordan Session went 0 for 4 from the line.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So when we were in the press conference, one of the journalists asked Coach why he decided not to put Willie back in the game, even though he only had 4 fouls. He had 1 more to give. In the second half, he said Jordan was playing well. Now, he was doing the intangible stuff that doesn't come on the stat sheet because Jordan only ended up with, Sessions, 4 points and 5 rebounds. I really don't know if Jordan really played that well. Honestly, this is my opinion. You can give me your opinion on this as well. Do you think Coach is taking into consideration that Willie is struggling? He has been struggling since that Thomas game. And I think Willie looked kind of down and out after getting those 2 early fouls. And you think that's why coach didn't want to put him back in because Georgia State kind of had a good thing going?
Well, yeah, I think Willie was getting calls on him that, my opinion, weren't the right calls.
Rather questionable. That's true.
Yeah, and I think Jordan wasn't getting those same questionable calls made. And so, coach maybe, I think, considered the fact of you send Willie in, and you get that fifth foul and you foul out and you're done.
But wouldn't you have wanted to see him put Willie back in? Because he let Jeremy play till he got fouled out, right?
Yes.
I mean, granted, now Jeremy was going in
Yes.
In the second half.
Yeah, 22 points, right?
Yeah, because he made 6 threes, and most of them came in the second half. But he let Jeremy play out until he got fouled out. I would have liked to see Willie at least get another crack at it, even though he was, having foul trouble the whole game.
I think Hollowell was putting points. He was putting points on the board, and Willie wasn't. And then, see, one of the things I do want to bring up as kind of a lighthearted thing is the big men for Wright State.
Oh, God.
Here
we go.
They were very questionable, all right? So I don't know if I can pronounce their names correctly because one is German. Number 22, Parker Ernsthausen.
Yeah, I think you nailed that.
All right, Ernsthausen, this man had 2 left feet, all right? He was out in the paint. I mean, what was it, like 4 or 5 times that he fell down?
Yeah.
And he's looking up for a call on a foul, and it was like, no, son, you fell over your feet.
He let the whole team down.
Yeah. And then you had number 33, Ryan Custer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to stop there with a man's name, like Ryan Custer. Okay.
But you know what? You got to give them the props, though. They put Willie out the game.
Well,
both of them did that, did they not?
Yes.
And I don't know if that was part of Wright State's game plan to put Willie out the game, but they kept him out. They kept him to 16 minutes in this game. Now, granted, Georgia State won without Willie having a big performance, but those 2 dudes, I mean, if they didn't score, they still kept the big man out, the biggest guy on the court, at least.
I suppose. I thought it was.
I mean, it was rather laughable.
It was comical the way these guys were, just lanky and awkward and couldn't. To me, I think some fouls were called against Willie when these guys weren't setting their feet.
There was a lot of good acting on the part of Wright State. Let's just say that. Right?
Definitely from Justin Mitchell. I mean, this guy, number 1, Justin Mitchell, he came out there.
About my size?
No. This is a light-skinned flat top.
Oh, yeah. Oh, number 1. Yeah. He was rocking the old school Jordan shorts. High waters, like Simon.
But he was out there just chirping in the ref's ear the whole game, trying to get calls made. I think at one point a foul was called and Ben Levy got up and just dunked the ball, which is
that was
happens all the time. No, but he was looking for the technical foul to be called, and it's just like, do your job and don't worry about everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's look ahead a little bit.
Okay.
So we're coming up. We mentioned on Mississippi State
on Sunday.
Sunday, with what you've seen here today, right? Got a lot of good positives, a lot of good shooting, even though it was from one or 2 sources. What do you see? Because one source within the athletic department told us that he thinks we might pull out with the win, or at least it'll be close.
Yeah. See, now Mississippi State has been struggling here recently. I think they lost to UCF here in the last week by 25 or something like that.
That was rather surprising.
Yeah, and so it's good because we saw our team match up against Auburn.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people, if anyone, would have thought we would win that game. Now I don't think we should have lost by 20, but that the late drive by Auburn is the same thing that happened.
Majority
to
of the game though we were what, 10 down, right?
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't expect that. So.
Well, and even with Purdue, I mean, we were leading.
Yeah. With the 15-0 run.
And that killed us. So, do we have a chance against Mississippi State? Yes. If we do win against Mississippi State, Willie's got to play.
Right.
Like, Willie's got to be in the game. Now, I know Sessions can hold his own, but Willie's got to stay in there. He's got to stay out of foul trouble, which I don't know, just doesn't seem very likely.
Yeah.
And so he's got to turn around this, I guess, like decline of performance that he's had, where, you know what I mean? Because honestly, Coach did bring Willie in for his offensive production as well as his defense. I mean, we expect he's a big guy. He's going to play great defense. But there is that upside that he had at Charlotte where he could score points. Yeah. And we saw it early in the exhibition games against Thomas. So we need that Willie, to come back. The friendly giant, we need the friendly giant back.
We need you back. I really think you're right there. Willie needs to find a way to stay on the floor, especially against teams like Mississippi State and going into conference play. He needs to find a way. And Jeremy. Jeremy has been fouling out this year as well. Now, granted, he fouled out this game, with a sizable lead that we had. Yes. So it wasn't as problematic for Jeremy to get fouled out. But he needs to find a way to stay in this game for Mississippi State. Now,
I guess part of it is that Coach has said he wants to play a defensively physical game. He said he's more concerned. He wants to turn his defense physicality down on his players rather than telling them to rev it up and get in there. And so I guess that happens. Guys are going to foul out. You just don't want to see the unnecessary fouls.
You got to be smart,
Yes. And then to add on to it, this is a college player thing, but this is also specific to Georgia State. We've got to have guys that are mentally tough enough that when they get that foul, it doesn't throw them off their game. That they're able to, all right, it's cool, and go back and do the thing. And sometimes I think Hollowell's fouls took him out of the game at times, which, when you look at the final score, you're like, well, they won. They led by 24, but those kinds of mental breakdowns against a team like Mississippi State are what's between the win and a loss.
It will not help them. But in this game, there was a lot of good things. Yes. So let's move on to our favorite segment, man, the game balls. Yeah. So you want to go first? Go ahead.
I will. Okay. Now, the guy that I'm going to give the game ball to is someone who I think through his shooting kind of dug Georgia State out of their early struggles and really carried them, especially in the second half too, and that's going to be Isaiah Williams. All right. So I'm going to put the IW on the ball.
That was one of the names I was thinking, and that's a good choice. Like we talked about earlier, he increased that lead in the first half. That kind of paved the way for Georgia State to go down the stretch. Well, you already know who I'm going to pick since you picked him. I'm going to pick Jeremy Hollowell.
All right.
Coming out gunslinging in the second half, and them threes. And there was one three that he made. It was the heat check, chuck it up, because you could tell the confidence was in him. He chucked that up and looked like Carmelo pulling back his hands, and it went in, and we were like, okay, this boy's the real deal. So, Mr. Hollowell, you got the game ball this week for this game. Excuse me. Jay. I think we covered all our bases in this game for Wright State. We're looking at Mississippi State coming up this Sunday?
Yes.
Sunday. We're hoping a win for the Georgia State men's basketball team. I am Nitin Nair. This is my great colleague, Caleb Johnson, and we will see you next time.